Welcome to this month's SmartAbout, and as you know, we do a fair bit about transport, and this month a fair bit about road transport. This, believe it or not, is road transport. You don't believe me? Stay tuned, because lots of these are going out on the road this month. You'll find out why later on. But first, the property pensioner wants to speak. That's me, by the way. And last month I showed you a flat in Portsmouth, which was the first one I bought in my spending spree in 2006. The second flat I bought was in Bramley, near Leeds, and the kind of paperwork I used to get from the property club, Asset 360 in this case, is shown on the screen. And we used to get photographs and floor plans and so on, and then select a flat. And then there's a process where this conservative club in Bramley was converted into 20 flats, and I went back all through the winter in 2005-06 and watched them do the conversion. Eventually the build was over, the weather changed, and I walked through the park from the railway station down to the building where the flat was and had a look round. So a quick burst with the video camera and look at the kitchen, all fitted out, the living room, nice big one with lots of sockets for TV and satellite and so on. There's a bedroom, and all the rooms, by the way, have the little electric heaters. It's an all-electric flat. The bathroom with a full-size bath, and the hot water system in a cupboard in the hall. So that's the flat number 2 on my list, and I would advise you, if you're thinking of buying flats, be very careful. As a leaseholder, you don't have a great deal of rights, and the management company that gets appointed to run the building can charge you a small fortune. We're back in front of the David Brown tractor, and it's owned by my friend Alan, who I've known for years and years and years. We don't mention how long. Alan, how long have you had a tractor?
I bought this in 2017. Always wanted one, and I drove a David Brown for a friend in the 70s quite a lot, collecting hay and turning hay and taking trailers here and there, and had a soft spot for them. And in retirement I thought, what can I buy to play with? And ended up with this.
And this month we've got pictures that have been taken at Denby Rugby Club, where it must be dozens, getting on for 100
Round
people?
about 90, yeah.
I was going to say, getting on for 100 people turned out with their tractors. Now, are all those enthusiasts, or are some of them working with those tractors?
Some are working tractors. People tend to preserve them in all sorts of different conditions. Some are in working condition and well worn, and they like to preserve them that way to keep them as original as possible. This was restored before I bought it, so yeah, I had no say in how it appears, but I'm quite pleased with it.
We're taking a look at some of the tractors now on the screen, and we're walking around the car park before everybody set off. Now I noticed a badge I didn't expect to see there, a Lamborghini. Is that what you'd normally...
Yes, supercars weren't their first product, tractors were. Ah. And before that, agricultural equipment, ploughs, hay rakes, mowers, yeah, for the Italian domestic market. Yeah. And then tractors. And Mr. Lamborghini decided to compete with Mr. Ferrari in the end, and then the supercars came on the scene.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all these tractors here. They're very much, a lot of them like this. They don't have a cab. Now, as you know, I live in the country as well. All our tractors around our way that are allowed out on the road have cabs. Is that a legal requirement?
It is after a certain date, but it's quite a late date. It's around 1990.
Right.
So tractors like this can be fitted with a safety hoop, which is a U-shaped thing over the seat.
You were all out on the road together, and we're now going to look at some pictures of when you left Denby Rugby Club. You'd gone up through Henthlan and then down to the crossroads at Trevenant. And I was watching this, and I noticed most of the tractors were going straight on when they escaped the lights, and then I saw these, you'll see this now, these group of tractors who were just like sheep following each other. The first one decided he'd turn right, which is presumably back towards Denby, and the second one was going to go the correct way, and then suddenly said, oh well, he must be right, and they all followed him the wrong way.
Yes, follow the leader's not the greatest game when you're driving an old tractor. They got caught by the traffic lights, I think, and the second they hadn't seen which way the batch in front had gone. I'd read the route beforehand, so I was okay.
Yeah, so they were raising money for charity that day.
They were indeed.
They raised quite a lot, I believe.
Round about £3,000 at last count.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Yes. As you know, I do a lot of technology stuff. Is there any new technology coming to tractors that you know of?
A lot. Many tractors now on large farms, mainly sort of East Anglia, the farms with a large field, and obviously in the States and South America, they're driverless and controlled by GPS.
Yes. Autonomous tractors.
They're probably more accurate than a driver. Combine harvesters as well. Anything that works in a big field.
That must be quite an impressive sight, because they're huge, aren't they? And to see them going along without a driver.
Yes, it's not by any means universal, but it's gaining in popularity. Electric tractors are still way down the list, I think. But hydrogen tractors have been tried. So
hydrogen, yes, but mostly diesel otherwise.
Mostly diesel.
Yeah, because
99.9%.
The farmers have access to red diesel, which is cheaper. Yeah. Very good. Well, thanks for talking to me.
You're welcome.
You might be interested in some of the other motor vehicles we got, including my friend Ian's old 70-year-old Ford.
Right. Yeah, this is 54 years old, 56 years old. Sorry. Yeah, 1965.
For those who are really interested in tractors, stay till the end. Right at the end, I'm going to show you all the tractors coming out of the gates at Denby Rugby Club. I'm not going to do that straight away, because there will be people who think that's just one tractor too many, as you heard, 90 odd. But if you want to see them all, stay tuned to the end. I've got them all. And so on to the old Ford car, and I was always confused between the Ford Popular, or the Ford Pop as it was popularly called, or the Ford Anglia, which was the one that we just showed you a C-Reg version of, that the police used to use when I was learning to drive, so I used to see a few of those. They said you could have any colour as long as it was black, but as these photographs have proved, you can have quite a few different colours. So we look at Ian's car. I went and had a chat with him, and I wasn't sure if I was looking at a Pop or an Anglia, so we had to have a closer look just to make sure. Okay, so it's definitely an Anglia. It says so on there. And here is another feature that I remember from this whole era of cars when I was growing up in the 60s. It's now defunct, I assume, but this was called what, a trafficator?
Trafficator or semaphore arm, if you want. And you say it's defunct. It's only defunct by a matter of a couple of weeks, though.
Really?
Because for about the 30 years plus that I've had this car, I've been thinking about converting it to flashing indicators. The reason for that is modern road users, by and large, don't see these things when they protrude out, and so they don't know when you're turning, and you get a lot of abuse from people thinking you're perhaps a BMW driver and not prepared to indicate. So after about 30 years deliberation, just a few weeks ago, out of boredom, I sourced some bits and pieces from the internet, and I fitted some flashing indicators for the first time.
Modernisation.
Modernisation, that's right.
So,
and remarkably enough, they work as well.
I mean, it's been kept in beautiful condition. How much other modernisation have you had to do just to keep up? Because even the fuel's changed.
It has. I run it on ordinary unleaded fuel because I do very few miles. That isn't a problem. The difficulty with the unleaded fuel is if you're doing a particularly high mileage with engines of this sort, you'll find you get what they call, I think it's valve seat regression or something along those
Sounds
lines.
complicated.
So essentially parts of the engine wear out more quickly because there's no lead in the fuel to lubricate it.
Yeah.
But when you do a very limited mileage as I do, and it's perhaps about 20 miles a year if I'm honest about
much?
it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. That isn't too much of a problem. So I run it on ordinary unleaded fuel. The only other modernisation that I've really done is to change some of the light bulbs on it to modern LED ones. And the reason that I've done that is because the conventional light bulbs, bear in mind this is only a 6-volt system and it has a fairly puny battery in it. The ordinary light bulbs take quite a lot of current, and so modern LEDs much better, brighter, and use very little current. So
And you can get 6-volt LEDs for it.
oh yeah, quite easily. It's quite easy to source them, and they're not too expensive to buy, and they should last a lifetime.
So if we, as a nation and as a planet, move away from fossil fuels, is this car no longer going to be able to run?
Well, one wonders what sort of arrangements the government will make, perhaps to allow historic vehicles to remain on the road. I suppose it'll become increasingly difficult to get fuel for it in the future. Maybe it'll just get consigned to a museum, who knows?
There must be a few of these already that are actually in museums, but this one runs.
Well, hopefully it runs. It was running earlier
What do you
today,
think?
but there's no guarantee.
Should we put this to the test? Should we see if we can start it?
We can have a go.
Do you have the preheater on it?
No, it's okay, hopefully.
This month I'm looking at lithium, and there's a lot of it about, as you may have noticed. This is my engine room in our bungalow where we live. All the stuff that's here used to be in the hall cupboard, but as we've gradually reduced the number of bedrooms we've got from 5 down to 2, all these rooms became available and I found a use for them. It's a lot easier going and fiddling with all this equipment in this small bedroom than it was in the hall cupboard. And this is the charging station. Lithium powers the batteries. There's a unit here which you probably won't be able to see, and I can't pull it out very far, but it is in fact a lithium battery. And plugged in the front of here are USB leads. You know we have to charge things by those these days. This one's charging my phone, and guess what? A type of lithium battery. The battery that charges everything up and runs this whole area, it charges overnight. So the internet router, the telephone system, we have an internet-based telephone system with handsets we can use around the house. We've got a home automation system with a little hub here. It turns lights on and off and senses temperatures and things like that. They're now all in these little cubicles, easy to get at. Bye-bye hall cupboard. Everything else gets charged here too. If I lift this up, it's a rechargeable Hoover vacuum cleaner. The battery is lithium. If I want to charge it up, I put it in its little charger there. Lithium is a scarce resource in many ways. It wasn't until everybody decided to do everything electric, from cars to boats to planes, as you'll see later. Electric isn't necessarily the answer, but we need a lot of lithium, and because we're not in the EU anymore, we would prefer to have our own in this country. Well, on BBC Click about 6 months ago, I noticed that Cornish Lithium were starting to discover our own UK source of the stuff, and they've got a lot further with that.
We have concluded a historic agreement with the Crown Estate to explore the lithium and geothermal waters offshore Cornwall. And really, the company is moving forward rapidly.
As part of that work, we have successfully produced a battery-grade lithium hydroxide product at lab scale using Lipidico's process technology. So following the success of this test work, we have acquired a license. Importantly, this technology does not involve roasting to high temperatures, and we believe that makes it an environmentally responsible method compared to other hard rock lithium processing techniques.
The reference to mining there is important because there are lots of metals used in the production of both batteries and in the solar panels and so on. They've got a lot of silver in. We're going to need a lot of silver, cobalt, gold and all sorts of other metals, and we're going to have to get them out of the ground in an environmentally friendly way if they're not already out. Here's a post that's been seen on Facebook, and it shows actually shows a lithium battery trailer for going around and rescuing electric cars that have run out of power. The post on Facebook suggests that this is actually a petrol generator. It's the Austrian version of the RAC and the AA, and they actually take this trailer around with a lithium battery pack to recharge stranded electric cars. It is not a petrol generator. So most people know all the facts about electric vehicles of various sorts. But what about hydrogen? Because that is the other fuel which could save us. It's a very clean energy. How is it getting on? We, in this transport spot, look at the trains and the boats and the planes. Trains first. Germany's ahead, as you might expect. Vorsprung durch Technik again. They've got the best hydrogen network for filling stations for cars, and they've got actual hydrogen trains running on their tracks. The British, well, we do the same old thing. I remember when the new electric trains for Liverpool to Yorkshire were announced. They weren't new trains at all. They were old trains from the 70s that had been refurbished. They were throwing them away down south, so we got them in the north, had them refurbished. Well, the hydrogen trains they've been playing with in the UK, they're old diesel trains that they've modified. The difference now, of course, is there's a lot of technology on board, and you fill up from a hydrogen filling station every night at the depot instead of the diesel. Let's go back and look at the German train and see how it's all put together. It seems to be all on the roof. There's a load of hydrogen tanks up there on the roof alongside the fuel cells, and as the diagram explains, the way it works is the hydrogen from the tanks is combined with oxygen, and that produces electricity, and the electricity is sent down to motors by the wheels, and any spare electricity is stored in lithium batteries alongside. Oh, that lithium again. We are going to need a lot of that. You have a lot more choice with boats as long as you design them right, because you've got solar and wind power and wave power as well, all at your disposal. The Energy Explorer is out there on the high seas. It's touring the planet to show everybody what it can do. It's covered in solar panels, so when it's in a sunny area it can get lots of power from that and store it. It's obviously going to meet a lot of winds out at sea and in the oceans, and the wave power uses a form of electrolysis to generate and fill up the tanks of hydrogen. So this boat can exist totally without being on the grid in any way at all, from 3 different forms of energy that are available in the world already and in remote places like out in the ocean. So here's one for the billionaires who are still out on the ocean waves. Rich people tend to want to go and hide because the press, they tend to bother them all the time. And they've got the money to create their own floating city with all mod cons on board. Now it can be hydrogen powered. You've got this huge ocean-going yacht, the Sino Aqua, believed to have been designed by Bill Gates, probably for himself, perhaps. Nobody actually knows. And it's basically got everything on board. Have a look at some of the home comforts, from the cinema to the gym to the master bedrooms to the office and to the deck. Finally, we need to do something with planes, and I can't tell you about any hydrogen planes at the moment because I'm not aware of any that are actually up and running. But something that is up and running and is very efficient is the Airlander. It's, I suppose, a hot air balloon. It's full of helium, which gives it a buoyancy in the air, meaning it doesn't need much burn power to get off the ground and keep moving. So it uses 75% less fuel to propel it along, and therefore it is, as I say, more energy efficient. It's a slow moving, gentle form of transport. It's not meant to fly you quickly from A to B, but it can spend up to 5 days in the air. It's been designed that way. It can take a huge cargo, so it can do long haul haulage and take some passengers along the way. The video you'll find on the internet shows the Airlander's interior by Design Q. I suggest that this is probably a CGI mock-up at the moment. I think I've heard that there is an electric version of this in the pipeline. They're working on the design at the moment, and they're going to put a 500 kilowatt electric motor in it to fly it around.
I mean, it's really scary because I can feel the power and I can feel the heat all around me.
Okay, finally, personal flight. Now that definitely wasn't energy efficient. It was probably burning more fuel than you'd like to think about, but it's a lot of fun. The jetpacks were supposed to be coming ages ago, according to science fiction cartoons. These pictures from BBC Click show a trial with the Great North Air Ambulance, where they tried the jetpack, are we calling it, in the Lake District to do a rescue.
In September 2020, Richard joined the Great North Air Ambulance Service to show how paramedics might quickly get to casualties in the rough terrain of the Lake District.
The Great North Air Ambulance reached out and said that there appears, according to their analysis, to be a large cluster of cases where if they could move very quickly out of a vehicle with this, that would work. And so we went up and tested it, and the headline result was I got to the casualty in 90 seconds when it took 25 minutes to walk there.
A few months ago I showed you a hydrogen filling station. It was in Rotherham, although I didn't tell you that at the time. That didn't seem relevant. What was relevant, there's the energy efficiency. It had a big wind turbine generating electricity to do the electrolysis, to create the hydrogen, which was then stored in tanks on site. And if you have a hydrogen vehicle, you can go and fill up there. And the spare hydrogen, using a fuel cell, or fuel cells I should say, they'll need a few, was used to turn the hydrogen into electricity for the industrial estate just behind the filling station. So the fact that they don't have many hydrogen vehicles filling up wasn't an issue, because they could store electricity in a way that the national grid cannot do at the moment, and then they could release it to the factories and so on behind. Very efficient. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you anybody filling up because nobody filled up, but James May has a hydrogen car and has done for some years, and he has just bought a new Toyota Mirai, and this little bit of video from his own YouTube channel shows him filling the vehicle up.
0.8 of a kilogram, 1.2 kilograms. Right, so that's finished, it's depressurized. The slight risk on a day like this is that the nozzle freezes to the car, which it has done. No, it hasn't. 1.2 kilograms. So 1.2 kilograms of hydrogen cost me £14.40. That will take me an extra 65, 70 miles of range, and that took what, 2 minutes? Good.
Now James's new Mirai is the second one he's had. He obviously liked the car because he's had one for 5 years already, and this is the new model that he's now bought. I have a feeling the video shows his old one, as he's only just in the last few weeks bought the new Mirai. It's about £60,000, I believe, which is what I said you'd have to pay for a hydrogen vehicle at the moment, and obviously most people are not going to pay that. But given what you get out of it and the clean energy it provides, certainly seems a good buy to me. So James had an interesting little video trick that he used to argue with himself. I think it's quite fun doing this kind of thing. So basically one of me stands on this side of the screen and the other one stands on this side of the screen. And now I can ask my alter ego what he thinks of hydrogen, and he can reply. Can't you? Yes, I can. I can tell you that I can't afford hydrogen and I probably can't afford electric, so at the moment, for me, it's got to be a hybrid.
Look, everybody knows producing hydrogen is energy inefficient. You need electricity to crack hydrogen, and then you turn hydrogen back into electricity. Why not just put electricity straight into the car? Yeah, but in the bright future of abundant, sustainable energy from wind and sunshine and nuclear fusion, efficiency isn't the issue. Hydrogen becomes a transportable fuel. It's like oil. Yeah, but you can use renewable energy to charge batteries. But you still have the battery, and it's heavy and it uses valuable materials. Imagine the size of the battery you'd need for a ship or an airliner. Imagine how many batteries you're going to need if everything goes electric. Well, batteries will get smaller. This is just the beginning. Well, fuel cells will get smaller and more powerful. There's no hydrogen infrastructure. There's already an electricity grid. Yeah, but the infrastructure is growing. It's already growing massively in Germany and Japan. The grid will have to expand to charge everybody's car. Hydrogen can be dispensed from existing fuel stations quickly. Where are all these battery cars going to be charged? At home? Well, what if you live in a flat or in a city terrace? Most people are going to be terrified of hydrogen. Look, my garage at home contains a hydrogen car, a car with a massive battery, and a car with a tank full of super unleaded in it. The hydrogen car scares me the least. My car's faster. Ha! My car is cooler. Mine farts. Mine looks like a killer fish. Yours looks stupid. Yours looks like a Vauxhall.
Finally, for £100 or £200 or something in that range, here's a kit that you can buy and fit to your own car to add hydrogen to it. It's not the full Monty, obviously, for that price. It's a bit of hydrogen assistance to get your MPG down. This is a video of a Ford Transit camper belonging to a friend of mine where he shows it fitted. The fuel cell is down by the chassis under the driver's door, and then the hydrogen system itself is under the bonnet. The hydrogen is stored in the big bottle, and then there's a takeoff for the water in a smaller bottle alongside, and then the hydrogen is fed into the air intake of the vehicle, and that improves the economy quite a bit. So that's our look at the latest in clean energy fuels. We'll perhaps come back to this in a few months' time and do a bit more. Well, strictly speaking, that's the end of the show, and you can leave now if you want. But if you're interested in tractors and want to sit through 90 odd of them coming out of the rugby club in Denby, then stay tuned. We've got another 5 minutes of tractors for you. So whichever way it is, I'll see you in August.